What's up, y'all? Welcome to the D Oaks Show. Listen, man, this one right here is very, very special. We got a very, very, very special guest. My guy, he's the founder of Gibson Performance Training, a former Demantha football coach, mentor, and federal officer serving our community. This is Martin Mo Gibson. Listen, Mo, my brother, with all of these things, man, all this impact, you making out here, brother, and you've been doing it for a mighty long time, and I can only imagine, we haven't even tipped the iceberg, man. Um, Take us back, brother. Why did you get to this point? Why do you feel the need, to get here? Take us all the way back, to where this started from, your story.
So, man, I'm gonna start it all the way back. So, um, when I was 3 years old, right, I lost my father, right, who was murdered. So growing up, I grew up without a father, right?
Mm,
Um, and it's kind of crazy because most of my friends were growing up the same way, so it almost seemed normal, right? But then my uncle, the day of the funeral, I never forget. Just remember him holding my hand, right? And I'm 3 years old, but it's something that's always stayed with me, and to this day, like that's still like the father figure in my life.
mm,
Um, but just growing up, man, and the time that he spent with me, some of the words that he said to me, I still hold to this day. You know what I mean? So the impact that an adult can have on you, that still, it still holds true to me to this day. So I realize the importance of that. But then my cousin introduced me to the game of football,
okay.
and I, first day, man, I just loved it, man. And I remember he gave me like this red and white glove, right? And we used to talk about Jerry Rice, so I just thought I was just Jerry. He used to hype me up, and I just thought I was just Jerry Rice. You know what I mean? But I was young, so just realizing the impact that words can have on you, right?
Mm,
Um, like realizing like how far those words can take you, and the confidence level and things like that. So that's something that I learned in that process. Also growing up, I always wanted to be like my older cousin. So he always had the Nikes and all this other stuff. And I grew up and I had five brothers, so I had the not the Nikes. I had the Payless versions of whatever that was hot, right? So, but you couldn't tell me I wasn't fly. Like I used to dress it up and all that. So like you couldn't tell me that. So uh, I just realized how key and confidence is, right?
mm,
Um, and then I started playing little league football. We had moved to Maryland. I grew up in DC, but we moved to Maryland, and I played at Peppermill Village, right? And that's where I met my little league coach. And to this day, I still have a relationship with my coach.
mm,
And I always wanted to play running back, right? Like so, when I first got there, you know how it is in little league. Sometimes, man, you have coaches who they have their guys, right? You're the new kid, so you got to kind of win the trust over and stuff like that. So they put me at O line, and I did a good job at O line, but I still, in the back of my mind, was like, hey, I'm a running back, right? So in one practice, he decided he was gonna put all the star players on defense because I kept complaining about being a running back. So he put me in the backfield, and I guess he was going to try to teach me a lesson by doing this. Well, I ran the ball three times. All three times I scored.
mm,
So I tossed him the ball back, and he was like, "All right, good job, but go back at guard." And from there, he realized that okay, this kid can play running back.
mm,
Now, the coach that I'm telling you about was my offensive line coach at Peppermill. And he used to always tell me, like, listen, everybody not going to agree with you. Everybody not going to see what you see. But as long as you believe in it, as long as you attack it, and as long as you achieve it, you ain't got, or you give your best at it, you ain't got nothing else to hold your hat on, or put your head down for. So those like lessons that carry me to this day, right? So you just think about all those things I just said, and I'm gonna get to that a little later, right?
Yeah.
So I get to high school. Well, now it's time for me to decide on a high school. DeMatha wanted me to come to DeMatha, but to me it was just like DeMatha was a school that everybody went to. They had to win the tradition. So to me, I just felt like, okay, if I went there, it wouldn't be no different. We would still win and cool. But my neighborhood school was Central High School, and during the time they never had a winning record. So I said I wanted to go to Central. I wanted to change the culture. That was my whole mindset. Being an eighth grader going into ninth grade, I said I want to change the culture. I don't want to be a part of the tradition. I want to change the culture. So when I went to Central, I recruited a lot of guys that played with me at Peppermill. Some of those guys transferred over, and then I knew my younger brothers. They were coming up 2 years later. But every year I was at Central, we had winning records all 4 years. And that to me, it was one of those things. When I came in ninth grade, it was my expectations of myself, right? So every day I went out there, I really, I know some guys thought I was showing off, whatever it may be, but after a while, when you constantly seeing it day in, day out, you start realizing, nah, that's really him. That's what he really liked doing. And in my mindset, I just always felt like, hey, my mom ain't got the money to pay for college, so I'm gonna get this college scholarship.
Oh yeah.
So that was my mindset always. Like, no matter what, my mom not gonna pay for college. I'm gonna go to college for free. I'm gonna play football. Well, so like I said, we had winning records. And then I had a coach at Central that I met, Coach Stiff, man. And my senior year, man, he came on board. And I mean, man, Coach Stiff told me how to tie my tie. Like, I never wore a tie. I always had the clip on, or I didn't have a tie. I never knew much about suits. He was in all that. Like, he taught me all those things. So when people sit back and they say, would you make that same decision that you made if you could do it all over again, right? Now, it would have been much easier for me to go to college, and I think I'd have probably went, somewhere like major. And it'd been a lot easier had I went to the Mather. But I didn't. I did well at Central, but a lot of the things that I've learned at Central, like, it helps me with the kids today. So I don't regret it at all. Actually, I love it. I love my process. I love my journey. I love all the obstacles I went through, because that's why we're here today, right? So I go to prep school. I go to Wyoming Seminary for 1 year, right? I'm going to school with prime ministers of whatever, daughter, the prime minister of this other country, like I'm going to school with like these wealthy people. And I'm not, so at this point now I become the minority, right? Everybody doesn't look like me. Most of them don't look like me. Most of them don't speak like me. And then in fact, some of them can speak multiple languages, and I didn't, right? Now, I went up to Spanish 4 in Central High School, but that's not saying much because I still couldn't speak a lick of Spanish. But I mean, it was just different. It was different for me. Like, even when it came down to writing papers, when it came down to, your math problems, it came down to how you conduct yourself, how you dress, and things like that. Like all those things I learned on the run, right? Because at Central, I was used to living that type of lifestyle, so I knew that. Now, listening to my music loud, that wasn't acceptable at the school. Facial hair wasn't acceptable. Like, it was a lot of different things that you just had to adjust to, which I did. I excelled well there, and actually I was headed to Lafayette, right? And I didn't get the high enough SAT scores to get into Lafayette. So during the time when major schools were coming in, like your NC State, Michigan, were coming in to try to get me to go to their school,
Yeah.
I was a loyal cat, and I was loyal to to a fault. Like where I told those guys, no, I'm still going to honor my commitment and go to Lafayette. Now, a lot of those coaches looked at me when I said that, almost like he's got to be joking. And now that I realize the game, I realize, hey, this is business, you know, and things like that. I see why they looked at me the way they looked at me, because you're talking about a Michigan, you're talking about an NC State, you're talking about a Georgia Tech, like, and you're turning us down to go to a Lafayette. It was I know it was a shocker to them. So I mean, now I get it, but you know, during the time, you know, I didn't. And at Central, I pretty much ran my own recruiting. My mom didn't know much about recruiting. I had a different head coach every year of my high school career. So it was always like a different adjustment. A lot of these guys didn't know much about, you know, the recruiting game and things like that. So they were learning it as I was being recruited. So I was learning the game. I had a counselor who taught me about the clearinghouse, and we did the clear. Thank goodness he pulled me to the side, and we started talking about the clearinghouse, and we got that squared away, because I had no clue about the clearinghouse. Mm-hmm. So you know, we got all that done, man. And like I said, I went to prep school. Then I ended up when Lafayette didn't let me into the early enrollment. The coach had called me and said, "Hey, listen, I know we promised this to you, but if you got any Plan B schools, I would advise you to go and entertain them." But at this time, all your major schools had already gave up their scholarships and things like that. So now my Plan B schools were like Villanova University, Delaware, which are great schools, but these are now my Plan B schools. So I ended up going to Villanova. I really enjoyed that. Now I'm going to another school where I become a minority, right? And I had to be able to adjust to that. But one of the things too that I learned in my process was at Central, I got invited to this camp. It was a Nike camp. It's somewhat similar to like the opening, where they invited the top 150 players on the East Coast. We had to go to Penn State and work out. This thing called the speed ladder that I'm very familiar with now, right? But I wasn't familiar with it coming out of Central High School. We never used it, never had it. I never even seen it. Mm-hmm. So they bring it out, and now it's time for us to do drills on the speed ladder. Well, I never seen this ladder. So, you know, I know I'm looking awkward. I know I'm looking bad. So one of the coaches walks over to me. He was like, "How you get invited here?" That's what he said. He's, "How you get invited here?" Like, that's how bad I looked on the speed ladder. So I said, "Man, listen, I've never done this ladder. Never. I've never even seen it." So he like, "You know, what high school you?" So I told him my high school. He like, "And you got invited here?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I showed him my shirt that had my name on it. He said, okay, cool. I said, "Coach, just watch me when we do one-on-ones. That's when it's football. Watch me when we do one-on-ones." He said, "Oh, you best believe I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna watch you." So we did our one-on-ones, and I mean, I killed the one-on-ones, right? So at that time, he just shook his head, and he was just like, "Man, listen." He was like, "I'm not gonna lie, you look shaky in the very beginning." He said, "But now I see you can play the game of football." But that was the turning piece, and that's the piece that I always think about, was that coach and what he said. And I know, like, the confidence that was built in me from when I was younger, like, hey, ain't nobody gonna be able to just talk to me any type of way. You know, even though I don't have the Nikes that everybody else wearing, I got the Payless edition. You know, even if you tried to joan on me, you wasn't gonna hurt me, because I was gonna end up joning back, and you know, my confidence is up. You know, so but that's something I learned when I was young. So, and that carried me through. So when the coach had said that, I just thought about all the youngsters that didn't grow up with the confidence I had. All the youngsters who would have shut down at that moment and not perform well because of what was said at that point, right? So I had a couple. I had a pro day after Villanova but I tore my hamstring like 3 days before my pro day, and my agent let them know I tore it, and 13 teams still came out to watch me. But of course, I mean, on a torn hamstring, there's only so much you could do. So you know, it just didn't work out at the time. And at that point, I just said, man, the one thing I wanted to do, I wanted to give back. And all the stuff that I've ever learned in my process, I just wanted to make sure kids in this area didn't go through that same thing. So I created Gibson Performance Training. And the very first thing I bought, you probably can guess, the first thing I bought was a speed ladder.
Yeah.
I wanted everybody to see it. I wanted everybody to get used to it, because my thing was, everybody is not going to be me. So the next time somebody criticizes this kid or that kid might shut down and not, be ready to go home, so I just didn't want that. And over time, man, I just bought equipment, after equipment, after equipment, after equipment. And, I asked my mom, could I run out of her basement? Right. She allowed me to do that. And starting out, man, I was in a basement that had a couch in it. Right. I was in a basement with like a couch, and then we had a elliptical in there. We had a stationary bike, and we had a squat rack. And then I just was buying dumbbells at a time. But then, man, I was also looking to maybe become a college football coach. And when I realized, okay, hey, that's not really what I want to do, and I want to really train, I remember one day we was at my mom's basement, and I had 13 kids in there training at one time. And I remember the one parent was like, I don't know how you made that work, but you made it work, and they, you killed them. But then that's when I knew, man, it's time for me to just jump out there, and just see where it's gonna take me. So I ended up getting a facility that was 1,000 square feet, right? And I'm gonna say, man, maybe in the first 6 months, I realized, okay, this 1,000 square feet building might not hold us too long. Like, we might need to get a bigger space. But it's always a scary feeling to jump out there, because you never know how things gonna turn out.
For sure.
But three almost 4 years later, man, and I saw this building that we're in now, 5,000 square feet. And I've been blessed to be able to, still pay the bill, still make money, man. And clients are still coming in. Clients are still calling. Clients are still trying to, they're on the waiting list, trying to get in, or trying to get individual work, trying to get in this group, that group. So, man, this is a blessing, man. And I mean, now it's to the point where college campuses to train their guys. I have a couple pros now that's doing well in their sport, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whether it's boxing. Yeah, I mean, that's where we're at now.
Yeah, Mo, could you share, because for those folks that's living under a rock somewhere in the DMV, who's some of your clients that you're speaking of in these different sports, man?
Okay, so for instance, like yeah, we're in the DMV. So one of the biggest names right now, one of the hottest names right now in the DMV is Chase Young. He's the DN for the Washington football team. That's one of my guys. Saquon Barkley, the Giants running back. That's one of my guys. You have, let's go to basketball. You have Jeremy Grant that plays with the Nuggets. They're playing now. They're playing the Lakers in the playoffs. You also have his brother Jarian Grant. And right now I'm in the stages of getting Jalen Smith. They call him Sticks, big man from Maryland, getting him ready for the NBA draft. That will be November 18th right now that is set. And then in boxing, man, I have so many different guys. One of the guys is Jared Hurd. And I know he's getting ready for his fight in December. You have Greg Outlaw, who's a professional boxer. He's an undefeated boxer in this area, upcoming boxer. But I also just added him onto our GPT training team. He's going to be a boxing trainer, where we're going to do boxing classes and things like that. So, man, I'm excited. Those are just some of the guys. I mean, you got AJ Dillon that plays for the Packers. I don't want to leave any names out. You have Lawrence Kager, who plays for the Jets. You have Kevin Smith that plays with Atlanta Falcons. I have a couple couple guys, but in this DMV area, if you're living up under a rock, Chase Young is a name that you'll probably hear about soon if you haven't heard of his name already.
Indeed, indeed. And you know, to the entrepreneurs, man, because you've expanded, you know what I mean? You tried it, you know, and I feel like you said, you went from that 1,000 square feet and you've now expanded. What's been you know, some of the challenges? You know, because once you make it, you still deal with challenges, but it's like on a different level. What's some of the challenges like that you can share with entrepreneurs or just young business guys, you know, who's trying to take that next step, want to take that jump?
One of the biggest challenges is, man, like is fear of failure. That's probably one of the biggest things is that people have great ideas. People come to you with all these ideas, but people won't help you with the process. People uh, people won't risk just as much as they want you to risk. You know, like so people sit there, like people tell me all the time, hey, you should get a basketball court in your gym. I'm like, okay, yeah, that stuff costs. You know, like people have all these ideas, but that stuff costs, and it's like, hey, who's gonna put up the money,
Right.
right? And you tell people, hey, you know, put up some money and I'll do it, and I'll put up some money, and then guys don't want to do it. You know, people don't want to do it, but that's because now they got to risk something. Now they got to be all in with it. But after that, man, I mean, especially in this DMV area, and I'm hoping things change, and no matter what, I'm going to go about it a different way. I'm going to always open my doors up to any trainer that's in this area, that's out of this area. Uh, and my whole thing about it, man, is like we never have to go against each other. We never have to be in competition. Like it's so many kids, there's so many adults out here, man. It's so many people that want to get better, right? So my thing about it too, though, is like if I have the knowledge to do something and you don't know it, my door is open. I'm not looking down on you. I'm not about to make no post about it. I'm not about to talk to nobody about, hey, I had to help him do this because he didn't know this. Nah, my whole thing about it is I can't train everybody, right? But
Right.
the one thing I can do, if it's some knowledge that I have, I can share that knowledge. Because whoever you are, if you're a trainer that's not in my gym and you're in another gym, you still have a chance to impact a life or lives. So if you're going to do it, let's do it the right way, right? And if I can help in any way, I'm more than willing to help. Because I used to be in their position, right? And then mentally, in my mindset, I'm still in that position,
Mm.
right? So people tell me all the time, oh, you know, you got this person, you got it. All right, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, that's fine. But everybody else might have that kid. That kid just not my kid might not be there yet, but you might have the Chase Young, the Saquon that's in your camp. Now, what you do with those kids is what you do with those kids. Now, when they come down to training, I don't know everything when it comes to the body. I think one of my biggest things and one of my best things is I'm able to connect with these kids and connect with these parents. My thing is to educate, right? Because I feel like if I educate you, right, and you're following the process, you're following what I'm telling you, and that stuff is working, right, then you will continue to do the same thing. And I'm not just going to tell you, hey, do this and do that. I'm going to tell you why we should do it. If you got any questions, don't ever feel like you're bothering me. Don't ever feel like you're offending me. No, because I want you to know. Because if you ever leave and you go to college or you go somewhere else, right? I want you to be able to sit back and say, well, you know, what Coach Gibson said, we shouldn't do that because of this. Now, you as my new trainer, why should we do this? And that trainer should be able to break it down to you, right? So, um, so that's one of my things is one of my biggest obstacles is this whole competition. Like we got to be against each other because we don't. And a lot of times when people feel like they got to go against you or you're in competition, that's where you get the rumors or people try to make up stuff just to try to bring you down or try to, you know, take a kid from you here and there. But I don't know. To me, like that's just the crazy part about it. Like I feel like you should never have to do that. And I feel like if we're focused in our lane and we focus on doing what we're supposed to do and doing the right thing, we ain't got nothing to worry about, right? Um, Another obstacle, man, is it's just people really being all in to the process, right? Like not trying to take shortcuts, you know, like if I'm telling you, hey, we need to start eating right, we need to start getting rid of this, getting rid of that, or you might need to add one or two more sessions, right?
Yeah.
And instead of saying, hey, the Jordans come out next month, you know, the Jordans come out in the next 2 weeks, I need to keep my money for the Jordans, because the Jordans ain't making you no better. The Jordans ain't helping you get that college scholarship. It ain't. It's not even. You know, it's not even getting you closer to that opportunity or to that chance. But things that are or that will help us get to those opportunities, to those chances, we need to invest in that. We need to take the time and really get into that. And I mean, and that's starting with schoolwork,
Mm.
right?
Indeed.
Like when kids come through this door, man, and you know, when poor cards come out, I always ask, man, what's your GPA? Because if you come in here and you got a 1 something or you got a 0 point something, you wasting my time. You wasting my time. You wasting your parents' time. Like so, and it's not that it's not that I want to turn kids away, but I want kids and parents to understand what the importance is. And at first, you know, it's going to be the schoolwork before the training, because you could be the best athlete, you could be the best in shape person possible. If you ain't got the grades, you don't stand a chance to get into college.
Definitely true.
Yep, yep.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely, brother. I've seen your work, man, with my own eyes, man, and you know what you do with the kids, man. It's impeccable, brother. You know, and I
Thank
definitely want you to keep doing it, man. Whatever noise you know is
you.
out there, you know it can't match your work. So definitely keep rolling with that.
No.
And just I wanted to touch on um you know, you serving the community, right? Because I was on a panel not too long ago, and there was an incident in DC where a kid had lost his life, right? I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a panel of four you know minorities on there, but not one of us was an officer or a former officer. So soon as I got off, I was speaking with the guy, and I'm like, man, if you do something like that again, we got to make sure that we at least get an officer's perspective, you know, of things,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yep.
so we can really walk away, you know, with something different, with a better understanding, totally, right? So, briefly,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what goes through your mind with everything going on while you're serving the community, far as you know, Black Lives Matter movement, whether it's black on black crime, you know, like all the stuff that's going on is hitting the news hard right now. What
Mm-hmm.
goes through your mind when these stories come up?
Well, the slogan, the GPT slogan. At the end of the day, we family, right?
Mm,
And I used to I say it so much, right? That I think at times to people it just becomes something you say, right? But think about this: if we all walk these streets, right, and we looked at each other as family,
indeed.
right?
Hmm.
If we really just look like and you know we see a lady walking down the street, right, and we looking at her as auntie or that's my sister, or you know, or that could be my mom. If we're looking at everybody as family, the way we would treat each other, the way we would look at one another, it'd be totally different. And that's always my approach with anything. Like even as officer, right? Like so now I know you don't personally hate me because you don't know me. You don't like the situation that you're in at this point in time. Now you can get feisty, you get upset, you can curse me out. Man, that's fine, right? But at the end of the day, I'm gonna still do the same thing that I do in this gym. I'm gonna explain it to you. I'm gonna explain why this situation is the way it is, right? Like, so if I say, hey, man, I need to see your hands, well, I need to see your hands because I don't know you. That's the one thing that can kill me is your hands, just like my hands can kill you. So you always going to see my hands when I'm talking to you, right? My hands not going to be on my gun or nothing like that. Like, you're going to see my hands. Now, in the moment that I can't see your hands, and I'm going to tell you this, I got to go home. At the end of the day, I got to go home, just like I want you to be able to go home, right? And we're not going to solve nothing by arguing back and forth. Nah, right? Like there's 100 people that can get pulled over a day, right? But there's a reason why you got pulled over. And a lot of times people know that they've done wrong. And I don't care whether it's like if they were speeding or whatever. It's like, okay, well, you knew the speed limit, right? Like, so if the speed limit was 50 and you were going 70, then you know you were in the wrong.
For sure.
Right? So that's my thing about it. Like now what I try to do too, though, I also try to educate people on scenes and let them know, like, okay, like if I pulled up to a scene and I wasn't the initial officer and I was a backup or whatever it may be, I might be the one calming the person down that got stopped. And just tell them, hey, listen, calm down, relax. Now, you got to stop for whatever reason, because sometimes I don't know what the stop is for. Sometimes I do. So, and I'll tell them, hey, listen, like, hey, this, you know, the plates don't belong to this car. And they'll say, well, you know, this is not my car. Like, okay, well, that's not the officer issue that made the stop.
Right.
So whoever car you're driving, you should have known, or you know what I mean? Like, whoever car you drive, they put you in this situation. And that's who you got the problem with. You don't have a problem with somebody stopping you, because see, when it gets reversed, right? And you get hit by a car and the tags belong to a different car. Now your car is messed up and you thinking you're going through the insurance to get your car fixed. Kind of find out the car that hit you, you got the wrong tag information. So now you realize that somebody else hit you that they shouldn't even been driving. Now you upset at that person and you saying, well, they shouldn't even been driving. They, you know, it's not even their tags. Well, that's why they also getting stopped too. You get what I'm saying? Indeed. So it's things like that where you try to, you know, once you explain it to people, most of the time people get it. Most of the time people understand it. Like when I break it down to people understand it. But right now with the tensions being so high, it's still, I mean, like I always tell you, I tell officers all the time, the most important weapon you have is not what's on your gun belt, but it's your mouth. Because you could de-escalate the situation or you can escalate the situation. It's all in what you say, how you say it, and things like that. But that's one of the most important weapons you have as an officer. But like to me, I mean, I've been harassed by cops, and now knowing, you know, now being on the side of being a cop and knowing the law and things like that, yeah, I wouldn't say every cop did it the right way, not even with me, right? And even now that I am a cop, sometimes I still get pulled over. Sometimes I still don't let them know that I'm a cop until the end. But that's just because I just want to see, hey, how far are we going to go with this, right? And then sometimes when you break it down to them and it's like, oh, well, why didn't you say you was a cop? Well, I shouldn't have to. You should treat me the same way that you taught in training. So in those situations, call your sergeant. We ain't about to go back and forth. I don't need to go back and forth. Just call your sergeant. If I need to file paperwork, I'm gonna go file paperwork. If I gotta go into your station and file the paperwork, I'm gonna do it. But and I'm gonna do it because I know, man, I'm only like this officer. If this officer keep doing the way that officer was doing it and what is the wrong way, the next guy that gets pulled over might not be a cop, and that situation might turn a little different.
Man, I appreciate you, man. That was powerful, brother. I know you got to get on up out of here, man, and get back to the gym work. So I'm not going to hold you too much longer. But you want to drop on the people, man, the address to your facility or how people can get in touch with you, man. You know, you got some parents out here that may want to reach out, some other athletes that want to reach out. You want to go ahead and share that?
Yeah, so we located at 9100 East Hampton Drive, Suite A2. That's Capitol Heights, Maryland, 20743. You can follow us on Instagram at Gibson_PT. On Twitter, we're at Gibson Training. So, and then you can always give us a call if you're looking to get in some training. And that's 240-893-3365. You can also send us an email at info@gibsonpt.com.
There it is. There it is. That's Martin Mo Gibson, y'all. Definitely check him out, man. Powerful brother. He's not going to quit, as you know, as you heard it today. He's going to continue to make this impact. This is the D Oaks Show, and I'm your host, Darnell Oaks. This has been sponsored by cityofoaksshops.com. I'll see y'all in a little bit.